It's just me, myself, and I. Solo ride until I die. 'Cause I got me for life. Yeah. Woo! I don't need a hand to hold. Even when the night is cold, I got that fire in my soul.
Kruger, what's going on?
Hey, another week.
I know. Every time we sit down to podcast, I feel like we were just podcasting
2 days ago.
Yeah.
A day ago.
It like flies by.
Yeah.
Best part of the week.
That's my favorite. I tell my wife, I'm like, I need this. I need this hour and a half. I need it.
Just let me be.
Yeah.
We've been lucky too with the weather. I thought for sure we'd get snowed out a few nights, and the weather's. I mean,
It's almost like you worry, is something bad coming in like the spring or the summer?
I know. It was what? Almost. I think it would hit 63 in Boston today.
It's crazy.
So. And then next week is supposed to be mid-high 50s, low 60s.
Saturday's supposed to be fairly chilly.
Yeah.
Meaning like high 30s, and Sunday and on is supposed to be really nice.
Yeah. So before you know it, baseball diamonds, if they're not locked up by the cities and the towns, the kids will be on there throwing the balls around. So a lot to. I just asked you a couple minutes ago, hey, what do you want to talk about? And we got a few things to talk about. I think just forewarning. So it's probably we're getting into baseball season. Yep. We're getting close. Spring training started. So we're going to talk a lot of baseball, and we'll do our best to put our own creative touch and give our own opinion on maybe some topics that have been in the news lately.
Mm-hmm.
And I think like last week we did a decent job of maybe taking one news bit. And was there any follow up on that? Did that? Because I don't have MLB Network, and has anything come? Was that like a 1-2 day story? The Cal Ripken and the rules.
They talked a little bit about it on the MLB Network. Did you hear baseball today announce that there's going to be no? You can the pitching coach can now only go out for 30 seconds. They have a timer on them.
Okay, so let's start.
And that starts when they leave the dugout.
Because I did read there was a rule change that came down today. I did not hear about this one. So you're saying during a game. So just for those who don't know, during an inning.
Yep.
If there's two visits,
the second visit you have to take him.
You have to take the pitcher out. Previously, there was no time limits, no nothing.
Nope.
The umpire would come out at his
and a lot
discretion.
of time they use it to their advantage, whether they just want to, give the pitcher a second,
warm up a guy in the bullpen.
Warm up a guy in the bullpen. That's the big one. You can get a guy loose, and a lot of coaches we just go out there and basically pitch a tent until the umpire came and got him.
So you're saying now, a pitching coach goes out to talk to his pitcher.
He has 30 seconds.
By the time he leaves the dugout.
It
might take some of these guys 15
seconds. Well,
seconds
that's the first thing
there.
I thought is they're gonna have to start jogging out there.
That is going to be ridiculous. I'm trying to.
Now There's really no punishment, though.
I was going to ask.
Like, it's not like they have to, they get a ball or a balk or something. It's the umpire just comes out. I don't know if. So it's weird. I don't know.
It's the same thing that it's.
Yeah.
They just basically want the managers or the coaches to run to the mound.
Yeah. Basically say something quick and get out of there.
I'm trying to think of like a really fat pitching coach that waddles out to the mound. I feel like they're all in good shape now. Dave Wallace was hobbled.
Yeah.
With an injury. He's actually, I forget who he's with now, but he seems to be back. He always ran out to the mound when he was healthy. So.
Yeah. One person suggested rather than the manager coming to get the guy on the second visit, he's coming out. Just like, hey.
So there's a lot of things in baseball that
I kind of like the manager going to get the pitcher, but that's just me.
You're old school.
Yeah.
So big rule change. I saw that. So it's not the first and only time it's happened. Player safety, just not in baseball, but in all sports, is a really big issue now. And just you've got these really good athletes that make your sport money, and they're getting hurt. Yeah. So it's hurting the game. And it was not in the – was it in the playoffs?
Yeah, Chase Utley.
Yeah, Chase Utley with the Dodgers took out Ruben Tejada.
Yep. And he broke his leg.
Mets and basically slid into second base to break up a double play. And, I mean, he came off the bag. The rule is you're supposed to be able to touch, or it was, you're supposed to be able to touch the bag during your slide, make contact with the base. And the Utley thing, I thought it was dirty. I thought he was trying to take
I don't
him
know
out.
if he slid. He more tackled.
I thought he was dirty, and I thought he was intentionally trying to hurt him. But nonetheless, MLB took a look at that rule play and other plays, and they've decided no more.
Yeah.
So you have to now, and they're going to enforce it by instant replay.
Yep.
But you've got to seriously try to, slide and maintain contact
With the base.
And you basically can't take somebody out like you used to. So, what are your thoughts on that? I mean, player safety is obviously the first thing.
I read it and I was watching some of it today. It doesn't bother me. I heard some players that former players that are now on television for various networks weren't huge fans of it because they're a little old school. But it's no different than in the NFL, shots to the head and stuff like that. It's just they've got to protect these guys, whether you like it or not, and they've got to protect certain players and shortstop, second base,
Tejadas of the world.
Yeah, the Ruben. So
well, I understand your point with the NFL protecting the quarterbacks because the quarterbacks are the moneymakers.
Yep.
I don't think shortstops and second basemen are necessarily
no, but I think if you watch them, they're in a very vulnerable position when they
defenseless
like
position.
A defenseless receiver. Well, it's really you're not watching the runner. You're watching the ball, and they're generally good enough athletes where they can jump over and they can transfer it pretty quickly. Look, I mean, I don't really think it affects that many plays, though. Think about how many double plays, the guy, runs into second and kind of just veers off because the ball's hit hard and he's out, So I'm all for it. I'm okay with it. You're still going to have hard slides, and you can still slide in. He still has to jump over you, but you just have to maintain contact.
In the same piece, I read that. I also read that.
I think that's always been the rule. They're just enforcing it now more.
The same with the pitching coach, 30 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's always been a rule.
You've always had to maintain. You can't just go out of your way. You've always had to at least attempt to maintain contact. They're just going to enforce it harder.
Same with the pitcher when he gets the ball back from the umpire. You're supposed to only have 12 seconds to throw it. And they have all these rules, and they don't enforce it. The same piece I read about the slide rule, I also read that they're going to now use instant replay to take a look at the neighborhood rule.
Oh, God.
So now you're turning a double play, really, a shortstop or second baseman's their
Do they
foot.
have to challenge?
I don't know. I believe they might. I read it quick, but that second or baseman or shortstop, their foot didn't necessarily have to make contact with the bag.
Yeah.
It had to be
Within
relatively
a couple
close.
inches, yeah.
And I read that that's going to be now reviewable under instant replay. So probably under a challenge.
The problem, what's going to, and it's kind of the same with the NFL. I can't believe I'm talking about challenges in baseball, but you're gonna have to. Is it worth it? To get an extra out back.
Well, outs are precious, right?
Yeah. It's kind of it's the same thing as in the Super Bowl when Ron Rivera had that second challenge to see if Peyton Manning was down. He really he won it, but he lost the rest of his challenges for the rest of the game, and the only difference was he went back 6 yards.
Right. I almost think you need somebody specifically. I honestly think and maybe baseball does have this. I don't know about football.
Yeah.
One person whose job.
Oh, absolutely.
Is to be the replay person.
And you see it all the time. They get, let's say there's an out call that they call him safe. The pitcher stays behind the mound.
Yeah.
And the manager's on the phone. Or no, the pitcher, the bench coach is on the phone with someone in the back saying challenge it, and they give him a thumbs up or thumbs down. They say don't challenge it, then they just let you know what I'm saying. So there's always that. Yeah.
Are you a big guy? Speaking of the challenges, whether it's baseball or football, it depends on the game. It depends on the situation. But are you more apt to throw that challenge flag, quote unquote, early on? To not let things get out of hand, or would you rather pocket it and save it for a big moment later? Because I get the Ron Rivera thing. Yeah, it was early. Maybe it's 6 yards, but at that point in the game, it's a big 6 yards. So do Do you believe in stopping the bleeding early?
And in Ron Rivera's defense, he didn't need to challenge anything the rest of the game, so he didn't need another challenge. You know, It wasn't like it was like there was a spot in the game where you say, "Oh, you really want to challenge that? You didn't have anything." I think it's game by game. You know, if there's a big call early, you gotta, look. Reality is with him in that situation, he got screwed on the first one.
Yeah,
that was, or maybe he didn't, but it just seemed like a catch.
I don't even remember.
Yeah, and it's just
That's talk.
That's kind of the beauty of the game. There's no
But,
right answer to that.
So you're not for instant replay in baseball?
No, I'm for it.
Okay. I just think you should get the call right. And the thing that I have a problem with, I don't like I understand giving a person 2 challenges for the game because you've got it's a little strategy.
Yep.
Ooh, that's so exciting. But aren't you also supposed to just get the call right? Right? Aren't you supposed to just get the call right?
And I don't think the instant replay slowed the game up. Like, so if you were complaining about pace of play before, I don't think that the instant replay really slowed it up that much. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I think that's one of the things. I think they're concerned with the number of challenges. They don't want every call to be challenged.
I just think there should be a gentleman's agreement. Does that sound weird?
You know what? When you said the neighborhood play,
yeah,
the first thing that came to my mind is in my head is like everyone's just going to have a gentleman's agreement not to challenge that because no one touches the base.
Yeah, that's true.
But
I feel like
because even though if you're the Yankees and Starlin Castro doesn't touch the Justin Pedroia doesn't touch the base, you know that Starlin Castro probably doesn't either.
So it's almost like the pine tar, the sticky.
Yeah.
You know all the pitchers do it, but you don't say anything because then your pitchers will get told.
Well, you remember when Nova did it? He was obvious that Ivan Nova.
No, it was Pineda.
Pineda. He did it.
Yeah.
Everyone knew he did it, and the Red Sox didn't say anything.
Until it was
they were
on
like,
his face.
It was on his face, and they didn't. And then he came back the second time and did it, and they're like, "All right, now we have to say something because you're just making us look stupid."
Yeah.
Because you did it before, and we said, "Yeah, no big deal. We didn't see anything. It's not a big deal."
It's not they had to go out and search them and search them.
It's like if you're gonna do it again, fine. Like put it on your belt, but you got it right here. We've got to say something now. It's on national television.
ESPN. I think oh my God, that was classic. Okay, so going back to the gentleman's rule, here's what bothers me in sports. For instance, Vikings Seahawks.
Yep.
To go to the next, I don't even remember, to move on into the NFC playoffs. And the Vikings kicker misses a 20-yard field goal, 30-yard field goal.
Yeah.
The Seahawks and Pete Carroll are celebrating.
Yeah.
Like they just did something.
Yeah.
To win the game.
Mm-hmm.
I don't like when teams cheer or try to get away. And I'm picturing, if it's that blatantly obvious that an umpire missed a call, and you're running back to the dugout, high fives, and you're pumped up, let's go hit.
Yeah.
Like, don't you, come on. Like, to me, it's like, you come on. Like, that was a bad call.
Yeah.
Don't celebrate, it's the guy screwed. I'd rather get it right, but that's me, so. Whatever. Baseball, like we talked about last week, I think they have to make some changes. We'll see. I think you got to get Joe Torre, Tony La Russa. Thank you very much. Is La Russa in the Hall of Fame yet?
No.
Okay. Well,
he will be.
But I think those guys got to
kind of get out.
I'm sorry, but I think you need fresh blood. You do. And I fear for baseball. But let's talk local.
Okay.
Bo Sox.
Oh, I thought you were going to say, college
Worcester
baseball.
State University. Spring training in a week and a half. What do you think?
I thought you had some some story that I didn't hear anything about. That
no stories, but
Did you hear your Throwback Thursday?
Of course I did. I have notes. Do you have yours?
No. Well, I had
some good ones. I've got good ones.
The only one I could think of is it's not today, but this week was the anniversary of the Miracle on Ice.
Yawn, boring. Blah. No, that's a good one. Local.
Yeah.
Can we talk about this 17% body fat thing for a second?
Sure.
No way in hell. Nope. Did I miss something? Pablo came out.
No way was he 23 last year.
Yeah. So somebody came out on the Red Sox. Tom Warner. Somebody. I don't care.
I think it was Henry.
God.
Yeah.
And he said Pablo Sandoval last year reported to training camp at
Yeah.
23% body fat.
Yeah.
This year, 17% body fat.
Yeah.
No chance in hell. 23 times 2, bro. He's 40% body fat, at least.
He's a big dude.
He's a big dude. And, hey, play baseball, go win championships, but don't start throwing this garbage at me. And this is classic Red Sox.
Yep.
They don't think we have the internet. They don't think we're smart.
Yep.
Maybe they just think that we're going to believe them.
Yeah.
They throw out all this garbage, manure. I swear to God, I'm picturing Henry and Warner and Farrell and Lavulo and Pablo and his agent
Yep.
and his mom and his dad, whoever else sitting in a room, and then this PR marketing guy,
Yeah.
public relations guy, saying, you know what we should do? We're just going to tell everybody you have 17% body fat. And them going, okay, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. We're in Florida now.
Yeah.
So maybe like Boston won't hear us. I swear, I just picture this meeting going on.
Yeah.
And,
Did you listen to the whole Henry press conference?
No, I haven't listened to, I haven't seen, I haven't
It's actually very candid and very good.
Is it?
Yeah. The
Well-
problem is that comment took over the whole thing, but if you listen to the whole thing, he was very honest. He admitted that he said our pitchers last year were absolutely horrible. He's like, we're trying to do less analytics, less numbers, stuff like it reminded me it was overall, it was nice to hear because he wasn't telling us how great everything in Red Sox Nation was. He told us, hey, we sucked last year.
Okay, but for me, the 17% comment ruins it all.
Oh, and they were talking about it last night, and I think it was Dan Shaughnessy. He's like, just like what I said, it was a really good press conference, but what he said, just ruined everything. No one's going to remember the rest of it.
I sent you a chart. I think it was on Barstool Sports.
Yeah.
You can probably find a million of them online.
Yeah.
But just if you're listening, Google body fat percentage, and they'll show you pictures of people.
Yeah.
And the percentages. Let's just stay on this for one more quick second.
Yep.
Pablo Sandoval's weight is an issue. This isn't the first year it's been an issue.
Nope.
The Red Sox gave him, what, $90 million?
95, I believe.
And they knew this was an issue.
Correct.
I guess, how big of a deal is it to you?
Honestly, right now, not a big deal.
Okay.
If you go out, look. So here's my concerns. One is he's always been like honestly when I see him, every time I see him, he looks the same as when he was in 2009, 2010. Yeah. He's always been that chunky. The problem becomes is he's not 24 or 25. Just like when we're 18, 19, we could have ate whatever we want and wouldn't gain a pound. Not anymore. Yeah. Going forward, I feel like he's always teetered on that line of out of control fat and fat where he can play.
Yeah.
Can he control what I guess is his eating problems and not have to? So if he continues to eat the way he does, as he gets older, he's just going to put on more and more weight. When you're 24, you don't put on as much.
Metabolism's a little faster.
Yeah.
What are the reports? What is he? Did somebody say he likes cheeseburgers?
Yeah. The Giants radio or television guy said that they had to have a guy at his hotel room to make sure he didn't order room service and stuff like that. Similar to, I don't know, when the Bruins had someone watching Tyler Seguin. They had to make sure he didn't order room service.
That's kind of scary.
It's funny. You hear the word eating disorder. He said eating disorder. You always think the other way, people that don't eat or throw it. You don't think of someone that's overweight as having an eating disorder, but they really do. It's just in the opposite direction.
Did you have a problem? All right, so listen, he's fat.
Yeah.
He can play baseball. For someone who's not the sleekest person,
Yeah.
I'm just concerned about his long-term health as far as producing at a high level for the Red Sox. They
Yep.
signed him for 5 years.
Mm-hmm.
What's he going to look like in years 3, 4, and 5?
Oof, yeah.
So they'll have more weight. Trust me, I just went to the doctors.
Yeah.
Reiterated it to me. The more weight I carry up high,
Yep.
the more problematic my knees, my
Yep.
ankles, my feet. I'm going to start having problems with those. It's
Yep.
wear and tear. So I don't. It boggles me that it still gets as much buzz as it does.
Yeah.
Because it's not new. I had a problem with his press conference where he came out and he said he has nothing to prove. Do you think that was a language barrier? Because I know Greg and I have conversations about the players from the Dominican sometimes, and he's like, no, that's not what he meant. Like, he says it all the time with Ortiz.
Yeah.
Because Ortiz's comments get screwed up because, yes, he speaks English, but they still...
It's his second language.
Like, instead of ground, they say floor.
Well, I think
and-
Pablo is thinking long-term in his career. He's like, I've won 3 World Series. I'm a World Series MVP.
Right.
You know, I what do I have to prove?
But do you... This is just a personal question, but, like, don't you wake up in the morning with something to prove? Just maybe, whether you're going to work or you're going to be a dad
Yep.
or you've got to go talk to... Don't you have to... Even if you're proving something to yourself, isn't that...
I know
shouldn't
exactly
that-
what you mean.
Shouldn't that just...
Motivate you every day?
Yeah, I feel like you saying you don't have to prove anything to anyone sounds to me like you're not really motivated.
Yeah.
Because if you're not trying to prove something to someone, why would you be motivated?
Yeah.
Maybe I don't know. I just feel like maybe it was the language barrier and him just not saying it correctly. But I feel like you should always be trying to prove something to at least yourself.
Yeah.
To your teammates.
Yeah. To the people that
Gave you
you're out there
$100
with.
million.
Yeah. $95 million
You've got
that have
3
made
World-
your life for you.
Yeah, and I don't know. I thought that comment caught my attention. I don't know if you give it much thought or...
I'm not going to say it's a language barrier, although I could be wrong. I don't speak Spanish. You watched the press conference and and he just didn't look like he wanted to be there. And I feel like he was just answering questions as quick as he could and wants to get out of there, which is fine. You know, he doesn't want
Maybe
to.
that was the case. Again, I
Yeah.
didn't see it. I'm reading everything.
He
so-
just had that look on his face like, oh, God, when's this going to be over?
Yeah.
Which, you know what? You put 17 mics in my face and tell me how fat I am, I'd probably want to get it over, you know?
That is true, huh?
Yeah, so.
That is true. Okay, let's go from third base for the Red Sox.
Yep.
Let's go all the way over across the diamond
Yep.
to first base. Hanley Ramirez. A few videos.
Travis Shaw.
There's a few videos popped up online today.
Yep.
Some people taking some video of Hanley playing first base.
Mm-hmm.
You know who voiced his displeasure? I'll give him a big shout out. Is Big L. I don't know if you saw his comment on
Nope.
Facebook.
No.
He basically called out Farrell, and he said, this is Big L's quote, maybe he got it from somewhere else. He said, coaching is confronting substandard effort on a daily basis. And basically these videos of Hanley coming out playing first base, I've heard another person
Yep.
describe it, actually Barstool Sports. I think the kid said, this is what I looked like in Little League
Yeah.
when my coach yelled at me and I was playing, like when I was playing first base and
Yeah.
I did something wrong. This is how I reacted. I pouted.
Yeah.
And I didn't really give it all my effort. And he said, this is what Hanley looks like playing first base. I read another thing that pretty much said, Dustin Pedroia said to Hanley,
Yeah.
pay attention or I'm going to hit you right in the mouth.
Yep.
Referring to,
I did see that.
Referring
Yeah.
to him tossing the ball, not
Yeah.
punching him in the mouth.
Yeah.
Can we already I called this a complete disaster 2 months ago, but can we already just call this can we call this abomination? That this is going to be
I heard
disaster?
today, and I don't know if you can confirm this. Someone told me that he did not show up with a first baseman's mitt to spring training.
I don't know. It wouldn't surprise me. He probably wanted to. Honest to God, he probably got there with the thought that he was going to use Big Poppy's, and then realized that Big Poppy's a lefty. Throws with his left hand, and then he was like, "Oh, you're right.
Oh, you're right. I don't have a first baseman's mitt.
I just wouldn't surprise me."
This has the chance to be a disaster among disasters.
Do you eat his contract? Just eat it.
It could get to that point.
Eat it. Release
Yeah.
him. I'm dead serious. I don't care.
Well, so let's say you come out and you're playing all right, and let's say you go out there and you're playing okay, you know, you're in the race, and he's
gonna cost you.
that's what I'm
multiple
saying,
games.
and he's not gonna have the attitude, you know, he's not gonna be like a team leader or I mean, look, he better hit 50 home runs this year if he's gonna be that bad at first base.
But even if I just see it as a domino effect where if I'm a shortstop If I'm Xander Bogaerts, I'm Dustin Pedroia, and Xander Bogaerts makes a hell of a play to get to a ball in the hole.
Yep.
Fires it off to second to Dustin. He almost gets taken out, or it's close, and he fires it off to Hanley, and it's a low in the dirt.
Yeah.
You and me, you probably could do it. Me, no. But, a routine pick at first.
Yeah.
I feel like after 1, 2, 3, 4 of those being missed, you're gonna start to think, okay, I have to make a perfect throw now to him, and that little.
And he still might not catch that.
And don't you need confidence? Don't you need confidence?
Absolutely.
Especially, and then as a pitcher, when you're pitching and you're on the mound, if you have a good, that's why I think the pitching will be better this year, because I think the defense will be better.
Yeah.
Especially in the outfield. But I just feel like you have one less thing to worry about.
Yeah.
And I just think this Hanley thing is just a complete abomination. I know what's going to happen. He's going to get off and he's going to hit some home runs in spring training.
Yep.
You're going to say exactly. You're going to hear people say as long as he hits 50 home runs, like you just said, and he's going to hit another 10 home runs in April.
Yep.
And then it's just going to be.
Which he did last year.
It's going to be garbage.
He was leading the league in home runs and RBIs at the end of April. It's
going to be garbage. And you got Travis Shaw, who played well.
Yep.
I don't know. I'll have to see. I don't know. I don't have to see it because I know what it's going to be like. And I just feel. And here's the other thing I heard someone talk about today. John Farrell, and we talked about this last week, he's going to be managing for his job.
Absolutely.
New GM.
Again, like we talked about, this is one of the most undertold stories of the
John
spring.
Farrell?
John Farrell is managing, and not only managing for his job, but his replacement is sitting next to him.
Yep. So do you think he's going to put up with it? You're going to take the Francona, the Farrell, oh, yeah, these guys are professional, like political bullshit answers. I feel like it's going to be a
but don't you feel like Francona, he said that, but he got guys to play for him?
I like Francona. I'm not dumping on Francona. I'm more dumping on John Farrell, but I don't. I thought it worked for Francona, yes.
And again, like we talked about last week, is Dave Dombrowski is not married to any of these guys. From the on the field, off the field, meaning managers, bench coaches, So, yeah, he's managing for his job.
I'm trying to think of bad, what bad contract. I want to go to James Shields and the Padres, and you just swap players, send Pablo to the Padres, and just take James Shields and freaking put him in the bullpen, put him in Pawtucket. I would do that in a freaking
He could
heartbeat.
still be in the back of the rotation.
But he's a guy who would be positive.
At least work his ass off.
And would be a team player.
Yeah.
And, anyways, I'm frustrated. I'm already getting frustrated. But I just, you know what the funny thing is, too? The videos today, I didn't even see them.
Yep.
I saw them, but you couldn't play them because MLB shuts it down if it's not on their website. So I went to RedSox.com.
Yeah.
Seeing, I'll just look at them there. Nothing there. Everything's on, like, Pablo, Price giving Big Papi a hug. And I'm trying to find...
The Red Sox put stuff on Facebook, like small clips. Like Pablo Sandoval almost hit a home run off Davis. It's crazy stuff like that.
That was a headline on EEI's app. Pablo almost takes Price deep on first pitch. Or first at bat. I was like, I don't care.
Yeah, I know.
I don't care. I don't know, man. So, anyways, Pablo, some interesting storylines.
Yep.
Pablo at third, Hanley at first. I sent you a text. I think the Sox want Vasquez behind the plate.
I think they do.
I think they're his guy. That's their guy.
Yeah.
But I feel like the elbows, it's not responding the way.
I think they want him back there bad because he's much better defensively, and I think they think they're going to hit enough as a team where they can have a spot where they say, okay, and he's adequate offensively. He's not as good as Swihart. But hey, I think I texted you back that it's kind of a good problem to have because they're two really good catchers. They're young. I'll be interested to see what they do with Hannigan.
Yeah, because he's still on the team, huh?
Yeah, he's still on the team.
It wouldn't surprise me if maybe they baby Vasquez a little bit more.
You can always start him on the DL, and then wait for something to happen.
A couple other, at least one more base. Actually, want to go to the throw. So my this date in history, two of them are baseball related.
Yep.
So back in 1933, long time ago, Thomas Yawkey purchased the Red Sox on this date.
Wow.
Yeah, pretty cool, huh?
Where do you find these?
I Googled this day in sports history, and there's like 20,000 websites. And then this day in 2008, more recently, Terry Francona signed a 3-year extension with the Sox with team options for 2012 and 13, which, as we know, were
declined.
The Bobby Valentine era. 2012, the forgotten year.
What a disaster.
Well, it was 2012, right?
Yep,
Yeah, 2011
correct.
was the last. Was the chicken and beer year. 2012 was the Bobby Valentine
Yep.
year, and then 13 was randomly a World Series. So imagine that though. Listen, who knows what would have happened if Francona stuck around? But if they stuck with Francona and brought the same group in 13, he could have been a 3-time. Yeah, he could have been a 3-time World Series champion. Instant Hall of Famer. And also, other randomly, 1989, Mike Tyson KO'd Frank Bruno in 5 rounds to win the boxing heavyweight title over the world.
I wouldn't have never even guessed that.
Yeah, so there was a
Hey,
no
did
good
you see
birthday
Jason
today.
Hayward? I was reading this article on Jason Hayward today. So David Ross announced that he is retiring at the end of this year.
Okay.
Did you know that?
I
remember
he was
I read
retired.
it and I forgot it, and then I remembered something about it.
I knew he signed a 2-year deal.
So Jason Hayward and David Ross were teammates in Atlanta.
Yep.
2006, 7, 8, 9, somewhere around there.
Yep.
Jason Hayward is paying for every road trip. He is paying for David Ross to get an upgrade to a suite.
Really?
Because he was such a good teammate to him when he was a rookie.
Yeah, so what? Now they're teammates on the Cubs?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty
So
cool.
every road trip he gets
He can afford it.
Yeah, he just signed $180 million. That's
pretty cool.
Yeah, he's getting a suite upgrade.
Well, David Ross from his time here in Boston, World Series champ 2000.
Yeah, I was reading it with Jen, and she's was like, whatever. I'm like, yeah, but if you had watched the Red Sox as much as we did, that was the kind of guy you
Nice
seem
gesture.
Like, yeah,
Real
yeah.
nice.
So
You think that? I was going to say the Cubs don't come to Fenway this year, do they?
I don't think so. No.
Speaking of the Cubs, Dexter Fowler.
Yeah.
So he was a free agent, ended up on the Cubs. I forget, was he traded from the Rock? Anyways, he somehow was on the Cubs last year. A free agent this year, had a 3-year offer on the table from the Baltimore Orioles.
Correct.
To go play outfield for them, and I turned it down. And he signed a 1-year deal with Chicago.
Correct.
And you sent me a text and to let me know. But you made the comment that, you go ahead and say it yourself. But
the Chicago Cubs are now a destination.
Which is, does that surprise you? Did you see this coming or what?
I always said give Theo 5 years. I mean, he's pretty close.
Yeah.
But I didn't think they'd be this good. I was reading about it. It's Ben Zobrist.
Yeah.
I mean, you can put him anywhere. Now, I think they plan on keeping him in the infield, correct?
I thought they were going to play him at second base.
Yes. So when he told teams, he said, I know my value is that I move all over, but I want to guarantee that I'm going to at least be pretty much at this position. Pick the position, I don't care, but I want to be guaranteed that I'm going to be primarily X, and if I have to move around a little, fine. I mean, they're building a winning organization. It was one of those things where I read it, and I'm like, you just never thought of the Cubs as being like the Cubs are never a team where you turn down 3 years to take one.
Are they going to win the World Series?
Oof, I don't know.
If you had to pick right now.
Yes.
I'll ask you this. Yes?
Yes.
You'd
I think
say
they're
yes.
the best team in baseball right now.
So who they have? So you think Jake Arrieta is going to come back and be Jake Arrieta?
I think he's going to be a little bit of a step down.
He won the Cy Young, right?
He did. He was outstanding.
So you have Jake Arrieta.
The problem with people, Jake Arrieta is like 30. Everyone thinks he's like 23.
He's not. He's
been around for a while.
Yeah.
You got Arrieta, Lester, Lackey.
Can I ask you a question about Arrieta?
Yeah.
He's been in the system. He's been in the minors. Do you honestly think he just figured it out and it clicked? Or do you think that he's taking some type of performance-enhancing drug that gives him now the ability to make him stronger and gives him the mental confidence to go out and dominate and be a Cy Young winner?
I plead the fifth.
Well, okay. So when I ask, do you think it clicked?
Well, it's the same thing with Jose Bautista.
Jose Bautista is ridiculously. Real quick on the Arrieta thing.
Yeah.
And the pitching.
It's easier to think that way with Bautista because he hits home runs.
I've had moments though.
Yeah.
I had moments, and I had days where it just clicked.
Yeah.
Right, or you got to a certain point in the season, you couldn't get that changeup grip just right, and then finally you just figure it out.
And he kind of did that last year. At the beginning of the year, he was good.
Yeah.
And then he got to the I believe he was an All-Star, but it was like not like a Cy Young candidate. And then after the All-Star break, he was legitimately unhittable for 4 months.
So I understand it can click.
If you're the Cubs, you have to sit there. And I think they're smart enough. They have to sit there and say, we can't expect that again.
Correct.
We can expect a really good pitcher, but we cannot expect that. And if it does, great. But you can't expect it.
So
because he has no track record of doing it.
Absolutely. So Arrieta, Lester, Lackey. I can't.
Hamill?
Is it Jason Hamill?
Yeah, I think
he
so.
did go back to the Cubs.
Yeah.
I think, but I don't. I think it's those three are their guys.
Yeah.
Right. Did they bring in a closer?
I don't think so.
So they have the same bullpen?
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've read a couple. I go to the grocery store and I just go through the magazines to just look for the predictions. Couple things that I noticed. One, I'm surprised at how many people are down on the Diamondbacks.
Okay.
I've seen most people have them at best 500.
Really?
I think they're going to be really good.
Shelby Miller and Zach
Greinke at the top. And I think what hurts them is what the Padres and the White Sox did last year. Kind of loaded up, and then they were terrible.
Yeah, but you knew they were going to suck. Right? Didn't you know the Marlins?
When you looked at the Padres, they were making all these, and everyone was all excited, and then you kind of sat back, and you're like, yeah, they have 3 left fielders.
Yeah, playing the outfield.
Yeah.
But they didn't, what I like about the Diamondbacks is they invested in pitching.
Yeah, and now they're moving, the Padres are moving, who's the guy they got from the Rays? Names. They got the played center field for him last year.
Yeah, Will Myers.
Yeah, he's moving to first now.
Is he really?
Yeah. And one of them had the Red Sox win in the World Series.
Really?
And I'm actually also a little surprised at how high everyone is on the Blue Jays still. I think they're going to be really good, but to lose David Price, that's tough.
I would, if you had to give me an option, Red Sox or Cubs, I would pick the Red Sox before the Cubs.
Okay.
The Blue Jays, I agree with you. I think they'll be competitive. You know how the Orioles have been the last few years?
They're just there.
I think the Blue Jays will be there.
Yeah.
The Yankees. Oh boy, I don't know.
If I'm the Yankees,
their bullpen is really good.
Yep.
But it was really good last year.
There's something. I think Major League Baseball is going to come down on Chapman.
You do, yeah.
I
They're
do.
preparing like they're gonna.
And it was funny. I was reading
Jose
something.
Reyes.
Yeah, I was reading something and watching MLB Network, and they were talking about the first time Chapman spoke to the media. And I guess they had a meeting. MLB had a meeting with the Yankees and Chapman, and they weren't making any decisions, but they were talking about it. And they said they talked to him afterwards, and he looked very nervous.
Really?
Yeah. And some people said, well, he doesn't really speak English, first time in New York. But just the way they said he looked really nervous. He couldn't answer questions very well. Maybe there's something there. Maybe the Yankees are prepared for something to be there that I don't know.
I think we've gone over this stat before, but
I heard someone say with domestic abuse, leagues are going to start to just suspend beyond what they should, and if they have to go to an arbiter, then pull it back.
they're suspended, like Jose Reyes, who beat up his girlfriend or wife in Hawaii or something in the off season. He got suspended with pay. He got sent home.
They basically said, just go home, we'll pay you.
But they're still paying him. So
I would not be surprised if he got a 100-game suspension.
Jose Reyes?
Yeah.
No pay. This is true suspension.
Yeah. I think they would rather suspend high
and deal with it
and go to the appeals, and if they have to bump it down because whatever, then suspend you get 10 games.
I just think with Chapman's case too, not only was there alleged domestic abuse, but there's a firearm involved that he, I just think that you got to remember it is a business and it's
Yeah.
all money driven. But at the same time, it's a stupid game.
Yeah.
You know, it's like these people should not get any more special treatment than you and I, but they do, and money talks, I guess. So, yeah, I'd say Red Sox. The Cubs. Did you see the Diamondbacks? So I know they have like a whole new uniform.
See their pants?
Yes, that's what I was gonna say.
Whoa.
So they have. I don't even know how to describe it. Like they have like their tops, their jerseys.
Yep.
Have like. I think the tops are kind of like the shoulders and
Yep.
the neck are black.
Yeah.
And then it like blends
in, yeah.
like a shutter effect
Yep.
into the white baseball uniform. And I didn't realize it, but the pants do the same thing
Yeah.
from the bottom up. So I was thinking, are they going to make all their players wear their pants down? Or like, well, how's that going to look if someone wears their pants up?
That's a good question.
Isn't that going to look kind of awkward? Or
Yeah.
do they wear different pants?
I don't think so.
Serious questions.
I don't
things
think
think
so.
about. There's also a little teal in their color now.
They have one of their uniforms is like that dark gray,
Yeah.
called like a steel gray.
Yeah.
In the lining around the neck and the shirt sleeves are like teal.
Teal. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And it's just so weird to throw in a teal there,
yeah.
but I guess it works. So
Some guy in the meeting was like, "Hey, you know,
just
color?
add this.
Yeah, put
Kids
that
love
color.
it.
It looks like water. Kids love it.
Yeah.
It's all about the kids. We've almost getting there. I don't know where we are on time. Not that it really matters. Oh yeah, we're good. So, anything else from the world of baseball you want to cover? Anything specifically that? Because again, I don't have the network. I don't have.
Me personally, I'm just trying to soak it all in and kind of take notes early. One thing I was thinking about today is
Anything? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead.
MLB Network was doing some stuff from the Angels camp. They are just completely letting Mike Trout's best years just rot away.
They are, huh?
It's just. Do you see Pujols today? He basically came out and said, in a roundabout way, we're not really good on paper, but we could. There's a chance we could be good.
I did see something
Yeah.
about that. Yeah, those words exactly. Like, we suck on paper.
Yeah, like we're not very good on paper.
You don't
but
know
you
any
never
of the
know.
guys.
We could be all right, but right now,
What a disaster. Okay, so then, can you name one big contract that was signed where you're like, wow, that's going to be out? Like, remember when Manny signed his contract with the Red Sox?
Yep.
And I remember waking up very early, seeing it on the ticker at the
Yeah.
bottom on ESPN, and going, wow, that's a ton of money, but
Yeah.
wow, he is really, really good.
Yeah.
That's an awesome deal. When's the last big deal that you saw that you were like, wow, that's good. That's a good deal. Like, that's going to work out for both. Because all I can remember is when Albert Pujols, as good as he was, signing that, 10-year, 250, 200.
I want to say it was 65. No.
Wasn't your first reaction like, he is not going to be able to move in 3 years? And he didn't even make it 3 years.
Well, I remember when it happened. You know, he had always talked about how he was, so loyal to St. Louis. Blah 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 blah. You know, the crap that, he said that, everyone says, and the outrage in St. Louis. And I was reading a report that basically said, the Cardinals would not admit this, but they're kind of relieved because they can't have him on a 10-year deal. They were like, I guess the point is they were relieved that they gave an offer and that offer was just completely blown away. You know what I'm saying? Where it wasn't like they lost them on like $10 million. They lost them on like $90 million. Yeah. And you remember the Marlins were hard in on that. It was, looking back, you just said it, the Manny Ramirez deal. He had an 8-year deal. He was really, really, really good for 7.5 years of those. And went to Los Angeles and still was really good,
I mean, I guess maybe, I don't know, when A-Rod signed that big deal with Texas. But even like
Jeter,
But then you had A-Rod opt out.
Yep.
The Yankees gave him a ton of money. You knew that was a stupid contract.
Absolutely.
Sabathia.
He opted out and they gave him 4 more years.
Stupid contract.
Yep.
I don't know. I just the big contracts. I mean, how did we get on this? What were we talking about? I completely forget. The Angels and Pujols.
Yeah.
And they're just. Well, I was thinking of C.J. Wilson.
Yeah.
C.J. Wilson. You said
First
you sent me
bullpen.
text. First bullpen. My shoulder.
Time,
feels-
guys.
CJ, you've thrown 4 pitches. God, just keep throwing.
Imagine what you got to be like. God, it's going to be a long year. February 20th, and my arm's already sore.
In all honesty, CJ Wilson's out there. He's throwing pitches.
Yep.
He gives his arm a little shake. Do you think the coach goes over to him and says, "Hey, you all right?" Hey, you good? And he says, "Yeah." But they don't believe him, and then they
maybe.
And then they go, "Okay, come on, let's go.
Yeah.
You're off."
Yeah.
Or do you think it's CJ Wilson going, geez, yeah, you know what? My index finger kind of like
it's a little
pulsated funny when I threw that. No, I'm serious. Like I almost picture these guys now like.
You know what? And you say this all the time. You have one job: show up in shape. Show up to camp healthy and in shape, and what goes from there happens.
Yeah.
If you're playing in a spring training game and you roll an ankle, that happens.
Yep.
I mean, you're playing in a game and your knee goes out, and unfortunately that happens. But show up to camp healthy and in shape.
Yeah. Yeah, because I think even at Winnick Division III, I mean, we had what?
And I'm just saying, you don't have to come back looking like a bodybuilder. You just have to be in shape. Like Dustin Pedroia is not like a man that is completely toned, but he shows up in shape. You
can tell he participated in some type of physical.
Yeah,
activity.
he worked out. So
I was going to say after winter break for Winnick, I mean, what we have the Golden Bear. What was that? The G Bear Challenge.
Yeah,
G Bear.
This gave me chills.
But it gave you something to hey, I got to kind of, and of course my sit-ups. Oh, you held my legs.
Yeah.
I think that was when we really bonded.
Yeah.
As I'm farting in your face and you're adding 15 extra crunches.
And the best part at the end, we just gave each other a nod. Like we didn't even.
Oh, it was so embarrassing.
Yeah.
Oh, that was so bad. But that's so funny. But at least you're supposed to have Big C would dominate that every year.
I think he won all 4 years he was there.
Yeah, he's just a genetic freak. But it goes back to the Pablo thing, full circle to what we said earlier. Coming out and say I have nothing to prove. Yes, you do. You're fat. And you had your worst year ever as a baseball player. Just do us a favor and show your teammates that you kind of care.
That you care.
We get you one. So they put it this way: Pablo Sandoval is not the reason why the Giants made it to the World Series and won the World Series,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Those 3 years. I think he was MVP one of the series because he hit 3 home runs. Okay, fine. Maybe you can make the case, but he's not. If you took Pablo Sandoval out of the equation, there's a good chance the Giants would have probably still ended up where they ended up because of Buster Posey, because of Bumgarner, because of Lincecum, because of whoever else, the closers, was Sterling Castro?
No.
What the hell is not Sterling?
I can't remember his name.
I'm picturing Sergio Romeo?
Yeah, that's
Sergio
Romeo.
Anyways.
Romo.
Sergio Romeo. But I just you got to show up to spring and you got to be in good shape. Off baseball for we'll finish up with another sport or two. Joe Johnson, who was drafted by the Celtics, back in holy crap, it was a while ago now. I want to say 2000.
I looked up his stuff now, and this is his 14th year. So that's 2002, 2001.
I didn't realize they drafted him and then traded him halfway through his rookie season.
Yeah,
might have pulled the trigger on him a
little early,
but and I feel like they traded him to Phoenix for Tony Delk and Rodney Rogers.
Definitely Tony Delk was definitely in the team.
Yeah, which anyways, got to make that playoff push in the early 2000s. So Joe Johnson, is it confirmed? Did he get bought out?
He did.
So the Brooklyn Nets bought out Joe Johnson, which arguably could have been their best player, right?
Brooke Lopez. Yeah, him.
Brooke Lopez, Joe Johnson. Celtics are obviously rumored to want to go after him, right?
Yep.
Who knows if they'll get him or not?
I think a lot of teams are going after him. So
everyone's going to. He's essentially a free agent, right?
Yep, he can go wherever he wants.
Now, can the team lower than the Celtics block him, or is it just open
Nope,
to...
it's no hold bar.
Okay, so, he's got options then. He'll probably end up in...
A couple of teams I read was Boston, Atlanta, Miami, Cleveland, I think Dallas.
Yeah.
So it's not like it's not like the Warriors where if you just latch on there, you're probably going to get to the NBA Finals. So every team is kind of like in that 3, 4, 5 slot in the.
So So interesting for a couple reasons. One, because the Celtics could possibly be in on him.
Yep.
And then secondly, the Nets are losing a really good player.
Thank you.
And the Celtics have their first-round pick.
If they were able to sign him, it's like a double bonus. Because look, you don't really care. Well, in the sense of the standings, you don't care how bad the Nets are. They're not making the playoffs. But if they can get worse and that draft pick looks higher and higher,
yeah. Do the Nets realize they don't have their draft pick?
it's got to be such a because you're like naturally you're thinking we've got a tank, but you're like for what? We don't even have that draft pick.
Yeah, it's bizarre. Huh?
Yeah. So do you go for it? I mean, do you go for it just strictly to screw the Celtics?
Don't you think it's kind of amazing now that players can go to these teams and be like, I don't want to play here anymore. Can you please release me? And they're like, yeah, sure.
Yep.
Don't you think that's kind of weird?
I want to know how they work a buyout.
Yeah. Like he's probably owed $35 million and they pay him $20 million.
Do they just usually go half? Like say, hey, all right, let's cut it in half.
Well, see, that's the other thing. If you're the team, aren't you going to be like, all right, well, if you want out that bad, we're
Here's
going to
10.
give you, here's 10,
Yeah.
here's 5.
Yeah.
So, you know what pisses me off, though, is the Suns have just completely fallen apart.
Yep.
Fired their coach, hired some new guy. They've lost like 37 games in a row. They're like battling with the Lakers for the worst record in the
Yep.
West right now. And I don't know if the Timberwolves are still there. But, like, you've got, obviously, Philadelphia at the bottom,
Yep.
and then you've got the Brooklyn Nets.
Who's not as far down on the bottom as they were a little while ago.
Ooh, the Sixers?
Yeah.
They occasionally win a game.
Part of it is because how bad the Lakers, the Suns, and the Nets have been.
No big moves on trade deadline day. We talked about it last Thursday. It came out a few days later, maybe this week, that the mystery trade team,
Yep.
whatever, was the Sixers, and the Celtics were talking to them about Okafor.
Yep.
Thoughts? Would you want that guy in Boston?
First thought was, so I heard that, you heard Danny Ainge, I think he went on one of the radio stations.
I think it's
said
Sports Hub.
Yeah, and he had a big name guy that the team basically decided they didn't want to do it, which I'm sure happens all the time. So naturally, I'm thinking outside the box because you had heard, Howard, Cousins, who else? Love. Mm-hmm. So I'm thinking Kevin, I was trying to put names together, like a guy that was, like a Kevin Durant or something. Yeah. Jahlil Okafor never came to mind. Initial thought was like you'd give up the pick for that.
Yeah.
Long term, he's got a chance to be really good.
He does, but he's got some off-court issues.
And one of the bigger off-court issues happened in Boston.
Yeah. But even a couple fights in Boston at a couple bars, and he's driving really fast. I think in Philly he got like 110 and a 40 or something.
Then I read something today that the Celtics essentially had a deal in place for Carmelo, but he wouldn't waive his no trade.
Really?
Yeah.
No kidding.
But I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
Yeah, I don't think the Celtics
Look, bottom line is if you get Carmelo Anthony, you will be better.
You think so?
Yeah.
But the Knicks suck.
They do.
They're so bad.
They do.
They suck. They're going to miss the playoffs again this year. Isn't that insane?
Does he hate every city that bad? To not?
No, he's so concerned about his brand that he doesn't want to leave New York.
I don't think your brand's going to change that much by moving for 5 months.
Freaking Carmelo Anthony, man. He's one of those. You know what sucks too is he's a Hall of Famer. He's gonna make it.
Honestly, he's one of those guys where if Ainge calls and they kind of get something in place and he says they don't want to go there, you just say okay, see ya. He's not he doesn't. Well, that's not a guy. He's not a guy that I go up to and barter for and call him and say, hey, this is why you want to come to Boston. He says no. Okay, next.
All right, thanks for your time.
Yep, we're going to the next one.
And the Knicks are sitting there. Phil Jackson's like, oh yeah, dude, just go. Get out of here, please. Tiger Woods, you follow this at all with golf?
I did.
So he had back surgery, and there was an article, I think, in, I want to say GQ, but it wasn't GQ. He had an interview. It was a really depressing interview with someone. Basically said, his rehabilitation from his back surgery was walking on a beach for 10 minutes and then sitting down and literally sitting down. And there were some reports that came out and surfaced over the weekend that his recovery is still not going well. He's in a lot of pain. He can barely stand.
When he gets in a car, he
has to recline all the way back.
Yeah.
So he responded over Twitter he had a golf simulator, probably in his basement.
Yeah.
Taking one swing and just kind of saying feeling good or making progress. Is he still relevant? And I know we've talked about golf before, but they've got a lot of young stars: Ricky Fowler, Dustin Johnson, Jordan Spieth, Rory McIlroy. They've got a lot of young talent. Like, golf is in a good spot, I think, as far as talent goes. If you're Tiger, do you just go and fade away?
I don't think you want to hear this, but I do. Yeah, I do think he's still relevant.
You do?
I don't think that that's necessarily the right thing, but I think he is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just because of the name.
The name.
Yeah.
You're always going to sit there and say what could have been.
Wasn't it so obviously clear that he was just going to just demolish all of the golf records? He was on a torrid pace.
He was on pace to like double Nicklaus's major records.
Have you ever seen another instance where an athlete fell so hard and so fast?
Nope. I mean, he hasn't. If you really look at him as a golfer, he hasn't been relevant for 6 years, 7 years.
No.
You know, he hasn't won any
majors. He
majors.
really hasn't, huh?
He hasn't won any majors. Really hasn't competed for many.
Yeah.
He might have been in the top 3 or 4 a couple times.
Yeah.
I always sit there and, what could have been with him? Because you look back when it happened, like Thanksgiving 2009. I mean, he was one of the best golfers ever then. Yeah.
Yeah.
And he was still only like 35, 36.
Yeah.
Jumping
back to baseball real quick, too, I want to talk about this. Barry Bonds reported to Marlins spring training camp. He's now their hitting coach.
Yep.
Looking good. Looks like he dropped about 50 pounds of freaking muscle.
140 pounds.
Jesus. If you Google Barry Bonds in a Marlins uniform, you'll poop your pants. He looks weird in a Marlins uniform, by the way. So Ken Griffey Jr. just elected to the Baseball Hall of Fame. He's going to be inducted in July. Came out and said he thinks Barry Bonds should be in the Hall of Fame.
Yep.
We've talked about this a number of times, and I think I've settled on it that he is not a Hall of Famer. He cheated. The reason why he put up good numbers was because he cheated and took performance-enhancing drugs.
Yep.
And I don't care if he was good before then. He cheated, and that disqualifies him. That is my final verdict on him. Do you agree with Ken Griffey Jr., or do you agree with me?
I agree with you.
Yeah.
But I do think one thing I will say is time heals all wounds.
It does, which sucks, and they need an algorithm.
And I think that, look, I don't know if it's going to be enough time to get him in the Hall of Fame, but, his numbers, his percentage numbers are creeping up, and you kind of see more people side with him. And Ken Griffey Jr. has to say that, I think.
Really?
No, I don't know, maybe not has to, but I think players are more apt to say he deserves to be in.
Does it mean anything to you if players? How do you take that from Griffey? Do you look at it from this side and say, well, he's a player, so he played against him, and he doesn't think it was that big of a deal, or he thought he was clean, or he did something himself?
That's what I was just going to say. Or he was a steroid guy and he doesn't want to, because if he says no, Barry doesn't belong to be in, and Barry will say, "Oh, really? Because I saw you do steroids," or something like that.
It's gonna. I'm telling you, watch. Mike Piazza is gonna get up there in July. I took steroids and I'm gay, and then everything's gonna be open the floodgates from there. Griffey's gonna be like, "Hell yeah, I took those pills. How do you think I crashed into all those walls? Why do you think I couldn't play after the age of 33? My muscles are falling." Maybe Griffey. Would you put Griffey up there with Tiger Woods as far as falling from grace?
Not that much. Not as much as Tiger Woods.
Really?
No.
I think Griffey had like one good year in his last 6 years in the league. You know what I mean?
Tiger Woods is a fall from, I can't tell you how high.
Yeah.
Morally and on the, because you remember before everyone thought he was the greatest human in the world.
Yeah, 60 Minutes and doing all these interviews.
He had this beautiful wife. He had these great kids.
All a sham. All a freaking sham. Hey, let's end on this. Last week on the podcast, we talked about youth and movement and bringing kids into baseball, and I used the WWE as an example of how they switched their product over to PG, and they're going edgier. Heading into WrestleMania. They're completely going back almost to like the Attitude Era and this last Monday night on Raw. First of all, the first segment on Monday Night Raw usually lasts about 12, 13 minutes, sometimes 15. This first segment went on 30-plus minutes without a commercial. It ran wicked long.
Yeah.
But essentially, Vince McMahon's son came back, and it got to a point towards the end of their segment where Vince McMahon was 3 inches from his face and basically dropped the F-bomb.
Really?
Said, I can't wait to give you an effing beating I used to. And the TV cut it out, but, fans were recording it on their phones.
Yeah.
The mic didn't drop it at the arena.
Yeah.
And you could hear he dropped the F-bomb.
Yeah.
And the 8 o'clock hour.
Prime time.
On a Monday night. And I was like, holy smokes. And then they finished the broadcast, and it wasn't real blood, but it, another wrestler beating down a wrestler to injure him.
Yeah.
And, they used fake blood, which was kind of funny. But there's a report that came out this week that said heading into WrestleMania, they're, 40 days away or whatever it is, that they're going to go a little bit edgier.
Yeah.
And I just got a kick out of it because we were just talking about this and how you got to get the young kids in. And
do you think... See, I find it kind of weird because it's not like they need to sell tickets.
They do, though. So
no, what I'm saying is, it's always packed, though, no?
WrestleMania is at AT&T Stadium this year.
Okay, that explains it. Now you've got to get 100,000 people in there.
Yeah.
Because, if you're going to go edgier... You're not. I feel like if you go edgier, it's not going to be shown on TV anyways.
They have their own network. Oh, okay. So I see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
So you're going to want to get there to see how edgy it is, because then you can hear everything, see everything.
Yeah, it's just WrestleMania.
How are you going to see anything with a ring in the middle of a football field?
That's
right.
Probably. Yeah. I don't know if they'll keep that up. I assume they will. The big video board. Yeah, you can't take that down, can you?
Yeah.
But, so anyways, so Vince McMahon swore, and then an old classic, just awesome wrestling, he made a match between his son and The Undertaker at WrestleMania in Hell in a Cell, which is like a super big steel cage.
Yep.
So it was just classic, wrestling, old school, make a ridiculous match. I was like, wow, that makes... There's one of those... Because okay, so just like anything else, the internet and rumors and the spoilers, and this was one of those things where you didn't see it coming, and it's still fun to be surprised sometimes. Yeah. But it's just they're going to try and sell tickets for WrestleMania. They're going to go a little edgier. McMahon dropped an F-bomb, which was kind of funny. Because you've got kids in the front row. See, that's the problem now, is you have 8-year-olds, 12-year-olds in the front row with their dad. I'll never forget the last wrestling event I went to with Lee. We did a fun thing in Boston. It was like a house show, no cameras. And we were 5 rows back. I just bought good tickets. And they had this one wrestler come out.
At the Garden?
Yeah.
Yeah.
CM Punk came out. And he was, after his match, standing on the ring, on the turnbuckle, and he was close to us. And he was yelling something, and he said, effing this, mother effer. Yeah. And literally in the first row was 2 dads with 4 of their kids.
Really?
8 years old.
Yeah.
And I just remember looking at him and him yelling at us, the F word, and then looking at the dads and them looking at each other, shaking their heads.
Yeah.
Because, it's come on, dude. But he didn't care. So, anyways, the youth movement I think we might have killed it with our podcast.
I sent it to you. I was like, this is interesting.
So that's our podcast for the week. If you have questions or concerns, text Kruger at 508
401-5.
Anything else you want to add before we buzz off for the night?
No, I was telling you before, I think the most enjoyable part of these last 5-6 podcasts is we don't necessarily have one thing to talk. It's not like we're talking about the Patriots every week in one game. So it's been kind of enjoyable.
Next week we're into March.
Yep.
Which is exciting. And we'll pick it back up next week.
Sounds good.
All right, Kruger.
Bye, buddy.